Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
We have an update to a story I did not so long ago. I told you about the situation where a guy went to sell his house and discovered that somebody had come by and filed some fraudulent documents with the clerk who keeps track of property records. And so now the guy had an issue because according to the official records, he didn't own his house, someone else did. So TV station got involved, and at one point in time, they called the person who filed the documents on behalf of the person whose name was on the documents. And the guy on the phone goes, well, tell me what law we broke. And I said, it'd be fraud? So this is not that complicated. Well, there is a happy ending, or at least a happy middle to the story, because a woman has now been charged after the deed to the $4 million Raleigh home was switched without the homeowner's knowledge. So the woman was arrested, and she's been charged. And I believe she may have turned herself in because she found out that things were about to happen. Diane Wilson wrote this for ABC 11. I saw it on yahoo.com as well, and Jerry and Philip both sent it to me. The woman who obtained a deed to a multi-million-dollar home in Raleigh is now in custody. And she didn't obtain a deed in that sense. The deed that was filed on her behalf was apparently fraudulent. That's what it appears to be. She's accused of obtaining property by false pretense, which is a type of fraud. She was the focus of a recent ABC 11 troubleshooter investigation where a man nearly lost his home. The man said one day his 8,300 square foot home was no longer listed in his name. Instead, the deed showed that the home had been transferred into a trust managed by this woman. So when the woman spoke to ABC 11, she said everything was done by law. She said she thought the property was in foreclosure, and so she worked to get the deed to the home into her trust. But she never explained how it was that she got the deed, because in foreclosure there's a process that never happened. She said once she learned the property was not in foreclosure, she stopped paperwork. But of course, documents had been filed already. The deed to the home in Raleigh was swiped out from under the nose of the home's owner, and the man only learned about this after the property management company for his HOA asked if he sold his home, because this woman had contacted the company to get gate access to the private gated community where the house sits. And so I had several people comment in the last video and go, hey, an HOA did something useful for once. The man who owned the home said he found out that she had filed a false warranty claim deed against the house and basically tried to steal it. So the man went to the Wake County Register of Deeds to question how this happened. And he said that he found out that there's no effort to authenticate the validity of the change of deed. Nobody verifies the notary. Nobody verifies who owns the house that's trying to be transferred to a different owner. So he proved to the Register of Deeds that he owned the home and that the woman had no stake in it, but the deed remained, and that was the problem. I've said this before. The way that these systems often work is that someone walks in and files something and they quote-unquote accept it for filing. They don't vouch for it. They don't verify it. They simply accept it for filing. And so that's how it works. And so the only remedy here is to come down on people who violate this like a ton of bricks. And so hopefully they'll do that here, because a lot of times you hear about this happening where the homeowner just straightens the mess out and they let the person go who filed the fake paperwork. So the owner couldn't believe it. He said, they say there's absolutely nothing they can do to reverse this. Once it's filed, their only solution is that I have to hire a private attorney. And the first quote I got was about $8,000 to file a civil suit against this woman. So he can file a court action and have a judge rule that he still owns the home, and then have the judge say, I'm going to order the clerk to accept for filing the documents that straighten this out, or to remove the fraudulent documents from the file. Take your pick. The Register of Deeds released the following statement. We are taking the situation very seriously, and we're committed to assisting the homeowner in any way possible within the scope of the law. Under North Carolina law, registers of deeds are statutorily obligated to accept and immediately register documents in conformity with law. The Register of Deeds is not required to verify the legal validity of a deed when it is presented for registration, nor are they required to verify the credentials or legal standing of the notary or drafter of the documents. And they go on basically saying, look, all we are is a repository. You come in, you hand us something, and we take it and say thank you. They might timestamp it, and then they file it. And that's the problem. So because the deed has been recorded, the Register of Deeds office does not have the authority under North Carolina state law to remove the document from the record without a court order. I had several people say, Steve, if she can just file a fake document, couldn't the owner just file his own document on top of that? And the weird thing about that is that on one hand, yes, obviously, if anybody can do it, he can. But on the other hand, what he'd be filing would be what? Saying that he bought it from her? You wouldn't want to do that. Saying that he still owns it? What document would there be to say, I own this and I acquired title a long, long time ago? Because that would actually be the previous deed that he'd filed, saying that he acquired title on that previous date. And so it would be messy to do it that way. And also, it's just, if somebody else muddies up the water, you don't say, I'm going to straighten this out by muddying them more. So you can check, because some counties' Register of Deeds office have ways that you can set up fraud alerts and so on, but it's not universal. And of course, if you get notification that this happened, that won't solve your problem either. You'll go, oh, I now know there's a problem. It's better than not knowing there's a problem. But again, really what they need to do is when somebody does this, they've got to be punished. So if, in fact, this woman is found guilty or pleads to this, you need to make sure that they punish her to make sure that people go, oh, I wouldn't want that to happen to me. Because remember, neither explanation here makes any sense. The guy that they got on the phone who said that he had filed the deed said, well, we didn't break any laws. Yes, you did. And the woman said, well, I thought the house was in foreclosure. So what? Just because a house is in foreclosure, which this house wasn't, doesn't mean anybody can come by and go, oh, it's mine now. That's not how that works. And so it's a pet peeve of mine when somebody is caught doing something and their excuse doesn't make any sense. And so the guy going, well, what law did we break? That's so painfully obvious. I'm surprised he thought that would, end the conversation. But what's crazier is when they confront the woman whose name is on the papers, and she goes, oh, I thought the house is in foreclosure. So what? I mean, there's all kinds of things, I think, that aren't relevant to this conversation. Okay? I think Secretariat, at the top of his head, would have been taller than Nikola Tesla if they're standing next to each other. What's that got to do with this video? Nothing. Okay. So you thought the house is in foreclosure. Did you buy it at a foreclosure auction? No? Okay, then why did you say that? Who cares? Who cares? There's all kinds of facts you can throw out that are meaningless. We were simply wondering what gave you the right to file that piece of paper. I thought the house is in foreclosure. Okay. Again, it's what we call a non sequitur. It does not follow. The one thing and the other thing, no, they're not connected. They don't relate to one another. What you're saying is something that has nothing to do with this conversation, so stop saying it. So Diane Wilson wrote that for ABC 11. They did a great story on it at the front end and also here. Like I said, this is not the end of the story. This is the middle of the story. The end of the story is how this woman's case is adjudicated. And we'll see how that goes. Philip and Jerry, thanks both for sending that. From yahoo.com. A woman charged after deed to $4 million Raleigh home switched without the homeowner's knowledge. And she was, I believe, taken into custody and booked and all that. So we'll see what happens. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Why isn't there mouse-flavored cat food?